Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Marco and this is Exploration Gaming. Today I'm really excited to bring you a new MAGPLAR build for the Elder Scrolls Online, which was designed as a group build. Now it can be played solo, of course, and does great with a companion like Ember, but it really shines in dungeons and other group content. Now MMOs are meant to be multiplayer. It's right there in the name. And your group mates will love you for bringing this MAGPLAR to the party. I want to give a quick shout out to Bee and Stacy and to Neil, who are with me on the stream helping me to work this one out. If you want to hang out with me live, please subscribe. I go on YouTube and Twitch and I'd love to meet you and answer any questions you might have. Okay, let's get into it. Some things are pretty standard here. Attributes are 64 into Magicka. Food is Bewitched Sugar Skulls, which I always use, and the potion that I'm using here is the Purple Tristats. The Mundus Boon is the Thief, which adds 21-27 to weapon and spell critical strike, and we're going to be talking a whole bunch about critical strike and critical damage, which is what this build is all about. A popular rule is that the ratio between the critical rating and the critical damage should always be 1:2. The critical rating represents the chance players have of dealing increased damage with an attack, while critical damage is the amount of extra damage that will be dealt by landing a critical hit. The maximum critical rating is 100%, obviously, which means that every hit will be a critical one. The cap on critical damage is 125%, meaning you can build plus 75% crit damage on top of the default 50% that you start off with before it reaches the cap. With our major and minor force buffs, we come close to that cap, while also helping our group hit harder. We're using the Oakensoul Mythic Ring, which automatically makes this a 1-bar build. Very easy to play. Now listen, I've heard other content creators bad-mouthing the Oakensoul Ring after all the nerfs that it went through. I just don't buy it. The Oakensoul still rocks. Let's consider just a few of its many buffs. The biggie is that it gives minor force, adding 10% to critical damage, which will stack with the major force that we're getting from our gear sets. Oakensoul also gives major savagery, which adds 26-29 to our weapon critical rating, increasing the crit chance by 12%. It has major sorcery, which increases spell damage by 20%. Minor Berserk, which increases all damage by 5%, Major Brutality, which increases weapon damage by 20%, Empower, which is an interesting new buff, increases damage done with heavy attacks by a whopping 80%, so don't forget to heavy attack with this MAGPLAR. And Oakensoul adds Minor Courage, which increases weapon and spell damage by 215. Now those are just the highlights, so please, no one talk bad about my mythic ring. Okay, we're going to add a Slimecraw Helm to the mix, divine trait with a Magicka enchant, to add 771 critical chance. You can see we're really upping the crit in every category. Next we're using a fun new set from the Lost Depths DLC, Grave Inevitability. Now this new armor drops in the Graven Deep dungeon, which is really a blast to play through. I truly like this set, which complements our other gear nicely. You want to get any 5 pieces that work for you. All divine if you're getting armor, and all Magicka enchants. You might get lucky and get a lightning staff, or ring, or a necklace. And I only needed to run this dungeon 2 times to get the 5 pieces that I needed, so it really wasn't much of a bother. Here are the stats. 2 items add 657 crit chance. 3 items adds 129 weapon and spell damage. 4 items adds another 657 crit chance. And 5 items does this. When you deal damage with either a light or a heavy attack, you start getting stacks of what they're calling remorseless. Now, I usually hate sets that you need to create stacks and watch, but this set procs really fast. When you get 5 stacks of remorseless, it creates an aura of focus, which you can see by the white line circle around your character. This gives you major force, granting you 20% extra crit damage, which, by the way, stacks with our minor force buff from the Oakensoul, which gives us 10% crit chance. So we're getting 30% added critical damage, and everyone in the circle gets minor force as well. An extra 10% crit damage for our group. It's a huge buff all around. So, you have your Slimecraw helm, you have your Oakensoul ring, you have your 5 mix and match pieces of Grave Inevitability, and you fill in the missing 5 pieces with Order's Wrath, my favorite ESO craftable gear set. Order's Wrath, just like Grave Inevitability, adds 657 crit chance, 129 weapon and spell, another 657 crit chance, and the 5th item adds a huge 943 crit chance, increasing critical damage and healing by 8%. Now all pieces should be the Divine trait to boost up our Thief Mundus and Magicka enchants to help our sustain. The Lightning Staff should be Precise trait with a weapon damage enchant. Now you can see this build is bringing a boatload of critical chance and critical damage to the fight. Okay, let's talk about the skills. The first slot you can use either Aurora Javelin or Blazing Spear. I've been testing both, and I think I prefer Blazing Spear because it has a nice long 10-second dot. The second skill is Puncturing Sweeps, are spammable for Templars. This gives us 36% heal for all damage done, which will keep us alive through most anything. The third skill is Living Dark. This skill slows the enemy down and gives us a heal when we take damage. The sphere also looks cool, and it lasts for 10 seconds, which is the same timing as Blazing Spear. The fourth skill is Unstable Wall of Storms from the Destruction Staff line. Another dot damage with a nice ending explosion, so be sure to let it play out. The fifth skill line changes depending on if you're in a group or going solo. In group play, we use Elemental Drain to debuff the bosses. In solo content, I use the healing spell Honor the Dead, which will keep Ember alive through any boss fight. The ultimate we're using is Thunderous Rage, which does great damage and has an amazing animation. Okay, we need to look at our slotted champion points because they're a little different than most other builds. The Warfare tree in particular. We use Untamed Aggression, which increases weapon and spell damage. Fighting Finesse is slotted, which increases critical damage and healing. Wrathful Strikes is slotted, which adds more weapon and spell damage. And Arcane Supremacy, which adds Magicka to help with our sustain. The Fitness and Craft slottables are pretty standard. For Fitness, I use Rejuvenation, Fortified, Siphoning Spells, which is important for Magicka sustain, and Boundless Vitality. The craft tree can go pretty much any way you like, but I use Plentiful Harvest, Treasure Hunter, Master Gatherer, and Steed's Blessing for speed. As you can see from both my group and solo footage, the Magplar is back and stronger than ever. This is truly a fun build, very easy to play, even if you're a bit of a button smasher, and it really helps folks you play with be stronger in your group. And that's what it's all about. Helping each other out, having fun, relaxing, and enjoying this great game. And I hope everyone is doing well out there. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any suggestions or questions, leave them in the comment section below. As always, I'm Marco. Have fun, be kind even when other people are rude, and keep exploring.